Hey all of you, hope you guys are great. So welcome back once again to this real estate dApp project. In this video we're going to build the entire functionality which is left in our context. And the last video we have learned that how we can read the property from the contract, how we can modify it, how we can fetch that and display in the front end. So hope you guys have watched the last video or all the other videos we have covered previously before we reach at this place. In this video we're going to cover all the functions in this one video. Okay, so things are looking pretty fine. We have this one. So let's start with the function for writing the function. So let's start with those functions which allow us to write something in the contract, like update pricing, update property data, we'll add reviews. So all of the function which make changes in our contract, write something. Let's work on the other functions. We'll call it to, and this time we're going to call this function come here. What is the name of the function? Let's go into the contract, and this is the function we're going to call it update property. So that's the function we're going to call it. So let's build the function. Simply grab this one and paste here, and we have to rename this. Okay, so simply grab this one and paste here, update property, and it's going to be called update property loading. Okay, so we have that one. Now we have to build the function. We'll take a variable called update property function, and this is the method I'm going to follow. Update property function. I'll give this function extension to every single function which are making changes in our state period contract. It's going to be async function. It will receive the form inputs, the data from the user, and now we're going to simply deconstruct that data. We'll deconstruct the product ID, because on the base of the product ID we have to do the modification. So we'll have the product ID, we'll have the property title, we'll have the description, we'll have the category, we'll have the image, we'll have the property address, and it's coming from form. So this looks pretty fine. Once we have that one, now we have to take this try and catch block, and we simply console log out the entire array. So we'll say error while updating, and we will pass the error object, and in that we're going to simply call the function. So we'll say const data await, we'll call the property. So this is the name of the property we have given. Simply grab that one and paste here, and inside that we have to pass the entire argument. So it's gonna be in form of object. It will take the argument, so we'll give this argument keyword, and then we have to simply pass the data. So we'll pass the address. It's await, so we have to provide async. I forgot that. Simply okay, I'm getting this error message. Why? Okay, I've written this in out of the function, so simply cut this one and paste inside the function. Okay, so that's happened. If I make any spelling mistake, if I make this kind of mistakes, don't need to worry about it, because this is a part of development. So this looks good, and we have to pass all of the data. So we have the address, we have to pass the product ID, we have to pass the property titles, we have to pass the category, image, property address, descriptions, and make sure this is the exact order you have to pass, the order you have defined in your smart contract. If your order is mismatched, it's going to throw you an error. So order is very important. So we have the data. Once we have the data, we have to simply console log out that the transaction is went through successfully. So we'll say contract call successfully, and we'll pass the entire data, the success. And that's the only thing you have to do if you really want to update anything into our contract or the property. Simply grab that function, and we're going to simply export it here. So we are done with this function. Simply close this one. So we are done with this update one. Now let's work on the third function, which is going to be update price. So let's come here. This is the function we're going to call update price, and we're going to pass all of these argument: owner, product ID, and the price. So we'll say update price. We'll simply grab that one, paste here, and copy, paste, and replace this one, and we'll say update price loading. Once it looks fine, now what we can do, come here, let's build the function. We'll say update price functions. It's gonna be an async function, and that we have to receive the data from the form, and we'll receive the data. So we'll take the const, we'll receive the product ID, we'll receive the price, and it's coming from form. So once we have the data, we take this try and catch, and we have to follow the same. footstep. So we'll console log out the error if anything goes wrong. So we'll say fail transaction and the error. You can display whatever you want. And in that we have to log the error message, transaction successful, and the data. And here we're going to simply call the function. So we'll say const data await, and we have to call the name of the function update price, and in that we have to pass the argument. So we have to pass the argument. So what we'll do, we'll take this array and we'll pass the address, price, product ID, and the price. So this is the exact order we have to pass into the function. So this will give us the success rate if the transaction went through, and simply grab the function, and that's what we're going to simply export from here. So things are looking pretty fine. So this is the update price function we have. So we are done with this 3 function: listing, update property, update pricing, and get properties. Let's work on the 4th function call. So come back to the contract, and in that we're going to work on the buy property. So simply grab that one and paste here. So the exact method we have to follow here as well. Simply copy and paste here. Let's rename this one, all the 3 places, and now we have to work on the function const. We'll say buy property function. It's gonna be an async function, and async function, and in that we have to receive the ID. So we'll say form. We'll say form, and first thing we have to get the product ID, because on base of that we have to simply make the buying functionality. So we'll say ID, and it's coming from form. Try and catch, we have to console log out the error buying fail and the error message. We'll come here, we're going to take a variable, we'll display the success message, buying successfully, and the data. We'll come up here and we'll take a variable called data, and we have to make the transaction. So what we can do is come here, we'll take await, and we're going to call the function buy property, and in that we have to pass the argument. So let me provide this one, and the argument is going to be something like this. So we have to pass the argument, and we have to pass the ID of the product and the address who's calling this function. So these are the 2 arguments our function need to make the transaction. Looks fine. So this is the entire buying functionality. Simply grab that one and paste here. So we have all of these functions. Looks absolutely incredible. Now what we can do is come here, this one is fine, this one is fine, and now let's come here. Now we have to work on the review function. So we'll say review function, and we have to create the review. So come here, and this is the function we have, get property. We'll call that later, because we have to call this add review, because right now we are working on those functions which make the changes in our state variable in the contract, means writing. Let's call this 5 and comment the 5 review, and we have to do the exact thing. Simply grab that one and paste here. We have to rename the function's names. Now we have to build the function. We'll say const data review function, and it's gonna be an async function. It's going to receive the data. So we'll have this try and catch, and we have to display the error message. So we'll type the error message. You can type whatever you want, but I'll go with simple message. Adding review fail and the error message. Come here, we have to console log out the success message, successfully added review and the data. Now we have to receive the data from the form, and we have to deconstruct that. So we'll take the form, and from there we have to get couple of data. So we have to get the data for the product ID, we have to get the data for the rating, and we have to get the data for the comment. So these are the things we need, and the user. And actually we don't need the user. Come here, so that's the information we need, user, and we need to remove this one because we can pass the address of the person we have. Now we'll take a variable const data await the function name, and we have to pass the entire argument. So we'll say argument, and argument we have to pass the product ID, rating, comment, and the address of the user. So that's the add review function. We have simply come here and export this function. Looks pretty fine. come down. Now let's write on the sixth function, which is the, come here, what is the function we have? Like review. That's the one we're going to work, because this function will also write something in our smart contract. So the exact logic we have to follow. So let me go a little quicker here. So I'll simply copy that one, paste, replace that one, and let's build the function for that. So we'll say like functions, it's gonna be an async, and it's going to take the ID. It will have the form, and this form will contain a couple of variables. So it will contain the first variable is the product ID, and it will also contain the review index, because these are the two data we have to provide if we allow the user to like their comment. And we'll have this try and catch, and we have to log the error message. So we'll say liking fail and the error message, and we have to display the success message as well. So we'll say successfully liked, and we'll the comment, and we'll add the data. Let's come here, take the proper variables called data, and we have to make the transaction. So we're going to call the function await. The function name is like review, and we have to pass the data argument, and we have to pass the data in form of product ID and the review index and the address of the user who is giving that like. So that's the entire for liking. Simply pass that function. Things looks pretty fine. So we have all the function which can make the changes in the contract. So we are done with this sixth function. Now what we can do is, now we're going to start working on the read function. So we have already read the properties data, all the properties. So we are done with this entire function. I'm simply copy, and I'm going to simply paste it 7, and that looks good. So we have the 7 function we have written. Now let's come here, and now let's work on the 8 function. Come here, and now we have to work on the get highest product. That's the function we're going to call it, and this function will return the ID of the product which has the highest comment or highest engagement. So let's build the function. We'll take a variable const, and data, and we have to rename this highest rated product, and it's going to have this loading state. We'll say loading, and we're going to call this hook use contract read, and in that we have to pass the function name. So we'll pass the contract and the function name. That's the exact thing we have to do, and it will return the ID of the highest product. Okay, this is the one way of reading data. So hope this entire thing makes sense to all of you guys, and that's what we are doing here. Simply grab that one, and that's what we're going to simply pass here. And this is the read one, this is the write one, and this is the event one. Now what we can do is, it's better to convert this into a function so we can return something out of the function. So let's come up here. So let's leave it like it for a time being. Now let's come to the 9 function, and the 9 function we're going to call get product review, and in that we take a function. We'll say get product review function. It's gonna be the normal function. It will have the product ID, and we'll have this try and catch. We'll console log out the error message. We'll say failed to get product property reviews and the error message. We'll console table data, and we're going to rename this. So we're going to say property get properties review, and its loading is going to be get property loading review loading, and this one is coming from this use context read, and in that we have to pass the name of the function with an argument. So the argument we have to pass the function name, and that's what we are passing here, and that looks pretty fine, and that's what we're going to simply pass it here. So hope this entire thing makes sense to all of you guys, that what we had doing here. This function allow us to get the get product review function. Okay, this will give us the entire review, and now we want to simply pass this one as well. So things are looking fine, things are looking pretty good to me. Okay, that's the get product review, single product review. Now we have to return something from this function. So let's call return, and we want to return the get product review and the loading state. Get product review and loading passed here. Looks pretty fine. Get product review building the function, we're going to fetch all of this information in the front end. Okay, done with the 9 function. Let's come here, number 10, and let's come to the contract and let's see what are left. So we have to get the individual property. We're going to simply follow the same first step. So we'll take a create a function called getProperty function. It's gonna be the normal function, and it will take the ID because we have to find the particular product, and we have to simply console log out the error. So we'll say error while getting single property, and we have to display the error message. If we can come here, we're going to take a variable data, and we're going to rename this getProperty. We'll have this is loading, and we're going to rename to getProperty loading, and in that we have to use this hook, pass the contract, pass the function name, and we have to pass the ID. So this will give us the individual property, and we have to simply return that getProperty and getProperty loading. Hope things are making sense to all of you. Simply copy and paste here so we can get it. So this is for getProperty function. So far things are looking good to me. We are done with this function. Now let's come here, let's work on the 11th function, which is what is the name of the 11th function we have? We have the get user property. Let's build the function. We'll call const get user property function. It's gonna be normal function, and we'll have this try and catch. Let's display the error message. So we'll take this error, and while getting user property, and we'll have the error. Now we'll come here, we'll take the const data. You get user property is loading, get user loading, and it's coming from use contract read hook, and we have to name of the functions, and we have to pass the address of the user who's listed the property, and we have to simply return the data get user properties and get user properties listing loading. Okay, so properties loading, and that's the function we're going to simply export here. So we'll have the data of that. We are done with this 11 function. Now what function we're left in this? So let's come here, let's work on the 12 function, and let's come back to the contract, and this is the function we have to call get user review, individual user review. That's what we're going to call it. We'll build the function, and it's going to be a normal function. We'll have the try and catch, we'll display the error message, we'll say error and error message. We'll come here, we're going to take the variable data, and we're going to rename this get user review, and we have to rename the loading, and we have to use the use contract read, pass the name of the function, and we have to pass the argument. So we have to pass the address of the user whose user we are fetching. Okay, so this will give us the data. Now we have to simply return the data. We'll say get user review, and this one. This looks pretty fine. Simply copy the function and pass here. So that also looks good. So we are done with the 12 function. Now what else we left? Let's come here, we have to work on the 13 function. So we'll say total property function. So how many property user have listed, that's one we're going to build it. So we'll say const total property function, and we don't need to pass any argument into this. It's going to be a normal function because it will return a number. So we'll say error, and we'll say const data, we'll say total property is loading is going to be total property loading. We have to pass the hook. Inside the hook we have to pass the name of the function. So contract slash, and we have to pass this particular one. So if I come here, you can see this is the variable we have which keep the track of how many property we have. Simply grab that one, and that's the one we're going to simply pass here. So this will give us the data, and at the end we have to simply return that. So we'll return the total property, and we'll return the total property listing, and that's when we're going to export it. So that's the for the total property number. And now what we can do, we have to create one more function for the review. So what we can do is, this is the 14 number function, total review, and this function is going to be quite similar to the last one. So we'll say total review function, and it's going to return the number. So we'll say console log dot it's going to be an error message. We'll come here and we'll say const data total reviews count is loading is going to be total review count loading, and we have to simply pass the argument use contract right, and we have to pass the contract, and we have to pass the name. So we'll come here, we'll take this review count, and we're going to simply pass that one. So that looks pretty fine, and we're going to simply return that one. We're going to simply pass that one, and we're going to pass this as well. So we are done with this function as well. Simply export that one, simply close this one. So we are done with all the function which are there in the contract for fetching all the information. So this is the normal pattern which you have to follow when you are working with the ThirdWeb, and as you can see, it's very easy to make the transaction, to write something, to get something. And now we have built all the function for reading and writing, and now let me show you that how you can retrieve the data with the help of events. So let me give this comment, how to read data with events. Now we can come here, and before I write something, so let's fetch the data. We'll say get specific event. So right now in our contract we have multiple events for sold, properties, review. So if you want to get a specific event, this is how you can do it. You can say const data, you have to call whatever name you want to give. I'll call it events, and we'll call this particular hook use contract event, and in that you have to pass the contract and the event name. So if I come back to the contract here, you will find that this is the event which I want to call, because this event we are triggering in the create list property. Call this one, and that's the name of the event we're going to pass here, and this will give the list of that name. This will give the all the events which taken place under this particular event. So now we have to work on the get all events. So if you want to find all the events in the contract, that's how you can do it. So you can give the name, you can call the same hook, and you can pass the contract, and that's the only thing you have to do. This will if you don't pass any argument in the event, if you give only contract, it will give you the entire event. So that looks fine. Now let's show you the ThirdWeb, and this one is quite similar to the last one, but you can set a specific argument. You can set a default value. So here we can build this argument. So we'll take this data and we'll call whatever you can call to this one, events with out, or we can call the hook, and we have to pass the contract, but we have to pass a couple of argument into this. So we'll pass this undefined, and we can set an object. So in this we can set this subscribe to false. Again, I'm telling you nothing from my side, it's all there in the documentation, and we are doing just a little bit modification as per our requirements. So these are the way which you can use it to get the event. So let me show you the console log. So right now we have created 3 properties, and we have created 3 event in our contract. So if I want to get the event, the property listed, so I can simply call that one console.log, and we can give the name of the event. If I reload the browser, and here we will see that I will get data, and here you can see we have all of the 3 events. If you open that one, you will find that the events. So you can see the event name, property, and you will have the data. If you open that, inside that you will have the data, and in the data you will have the ID, honor, and the price, and these are the exact data we have passed in the event. So you can simply use this data to display in your front end, and events are really powerful. It saves a lot of your gas when you will actually work in the DAV section. So this is the event we have. Now simply grab that one. Now let me show you all events. So it's going to give you the same thing, because it generally give you all the events, whether it's review, sold, but right now we have this 3 events, so that's why we are getting the same result here, but it will give you this all the events in the contract. What we can simply grab that one, and we can simply paste here, and if you call this event without listener, it will give you the same result. So just wait, and here you can see we got the events. So you can see we have tons of data here which we can utilize to display in our front end. Okay, comment this out, and things are looking absolutely fine. Hope this entire thing makes sense to all of you guys. Finally we are completed the entire context. Okay, so we have imported this, we have imported the ThirdWeb hooks, then we have ether.js, then we have build the context, then we have the contract and pass the address, then we have this variables, then we have all of this function, listed property, update property, update price, buy property, review, like, get property data. We have this one, get product review, get property functions, review, total property, and total review. So everything is working fine, and this is the event we have. So we are done with this entire functionality with the context, backends, smart contract. Every single thing is working absolutely fine. And this is the last thing we are updating, our simply exporting our context. Simply close this one, and here we have done all of these things. We have simply configured the chain ID. Everything is looking absolutely incredible, and this is the entire index for this one. Okay, this one. So that looks pretty awesome to me. Everything is looking fine. Close all of this, and that's the only thing I want to cover in this video. You have seen that we have built the entire smart contract, we have built the entire context, we are easily able to call the functions and writing something into contract, fetching the data. So everything's working fine. In the next video, we're going to take the template we have already designed. We're going to take the template and we're going to simply retrieve all of this data, all of the function we're going to simply attach into our front-end UI. So that's what we're going to do in the next video. So make sure to watch, because now in the next video things are getting very interesting, because we're going to have all of this function in the UI and which you can use it to make all the transaction. With that, let's move to the next video.